The mystery of the elongated skulls. Are they alien? Are they an alien-human mix? Was this done to human children to make them look like our gods, our alien visitors? Stay tuned as we dig into this mystery. So I was asked to look into this by one of our viewers a few weeks back. It's been on my back burner. I'm getting to it now, so I've done a little bit of research. I will present to you some of the stuff I've found, some of the interesting pictures, some of the interesting articles, and of course, we will talk to the voices, the spirits, and we'll get their take on it as well. The Practice of Head Binding, written by Ashta Hunter in 2015. Head binding, also called artificial cranial deformation, is a form of body alteration in which the skull of a human being is intentionally deformed. The head binding process typically begins approximately a month after birth, as the skull is most pliable at this time, and continues for about 6 months. It is done by distorting the normal growth of a child's skull by applying force. Flat shapes, elongated ones, rounded ones, and conical ones are among the most utilized shapes. Although there is no universal reason for this practice, cranial deformation was probably performed to signify group affiliation or to demonstrate social status. In the Australasia area, a person with an elongated head is thought to be more intelligent, of higher status, and closer to the world of the spirits. This could explain why they called me an egg-headed bastard the other day. Up until the late 20th century, the Vanuatu people of the Toman Islands still practiced head binding. The process begins approximately a month after birth. Each day the child's head was smeared with the burnt paste made from the candle nut tree. This process softens the skin and prevents binding rash. The child's head was then bound with a soft bandage made from the inner bark of a type of banana tree. Over this was placed a specially woven basket made from pandanus, and this was bound around with fiber rope. This process continued every day for approximately 6 months to produce the required shape.
Let's see here. I'm going to put the tap on just a little bit so not too overpowering, and hopefully the answers are clear, and I'll keep the camera down low as I can. Good morning, spirits.
So today I want to ask you questions about the elongated skulls that have been discovered around the world. From Peru over to Europe. Can DNA solve the mystery of Europe's pointy skulls? By Megan Gannon, published August 21st, 2019. A new genomic study tries to see if there's a correlation between artificial cranial deformation and migration following the collapse of the Roman Empire. Skull modification may have been an extreme way to declare one's identity during the migration period, ca. 300 to 700 AD, when so-called barbarian groups like the Goths and the Huns were vying for control of territory in Europe after the collapse of the Roman Empire. At a site called Hermanov Vinograd in eastern Croatia, archaeologists recently found a peculiar burial pit that contained the remains of 3 teenage boys. The teens were buried sometime between 415 and 560 AD. 2 of the boys had artificially deformed skulls, and a DNA analysis now revealed another curious fact. The 3 boys buried together all had dramatically different genetic backgrounds. The one without any skull modifications had ancestry from Western Eurasia. The teen who had a heightened but still rounded skull had ancestry from the Near East. And the boy who had a very elongated skull had ancestry mainly from East Asia. The 3 teenagers that were found in the hole, and they had very different DNA, so they were from different parts of the world. Did they know each other? How did they die? Out-of-place medieval Bavarian skulls. March 12, 2018. In a handful of medieval Bavarian farming hamlets populated mostly by blue-eyed blondes, more than a dozen women with dark hair, dark eyes, and unusual elongated skulls would have stood out. A new DNA study suggests that these women, whose striking skulls have been unearthed from nearby grave sites, were high-ranking treaty brides from Romania and Bulgaria, married off to cement political alliances. The remains, which date to about 500 CE, are part of a pattern of elongated skulls found in grave sites across early and medieval Europe and Asia. The Bavarian skulls were unearthed alongside regularly shaped ones near 6 modern southern German towns along the Danube River, starting in the late 1960s. Curious about the tower-shaped skulls, anthropologist and population geneticist Joachim Berger from Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz, Germany, set out to sequence their DNA. Berger and colleagues compared the DNA from the tiny bone fragments in the graves with each other and those of modern populations throughout Europe and Asia. The DNA of 10 men and 13 women with normal skulls most closely matched modern populations in Central and Northern Europe. Most had genes for blonde hair and blue eyes. But DNA from the 13 women with elongated skulls told a different tale. The genetics of these women matched modern populations in southeastern Europe, specifically Bulgaria and Romania, and they had genes for the darker hair and eyes. The 13 skulls of the women that would have been dark-haired and dark-eyed in the communities that were mostly blonde-haired and blue-eyed, were they brides? Why were those 13 women brought into those communities? Is it just a natural migration thing? Were they slaves? Alien skulls? DNA test results on the elongated skulls discovered in Peru have been released by a researcher investigating if the bones could belong to an alien race. The 3,000-year-old Paracas skulls with elongated craniums have long been held up by UFO hunters as evidence of ancient alien visitation due to their extraordinarily huge foreheads. Researcher Brian Forrester initially thought the discovery would not fit into the known evolutionary tree. The Paracas skulls were discovered on the desert peninsula of Paracas on the southern coast of Peru by native archaeologist Julio Tello in 1928. In 2015, discussing earlier DNA tests on the remains, Forrester said, "The mitochondrial DNA presented mutations unknown to any man, primate, or any other animal, and the mutations suggest we are dealing with a completely new human-like being." Are the elongated skulls human in nature? Or are they alien?
So the results that we got, 4 of the elongated skulls were of haplogroup B, which relates to the fact that there was Native American ancestry involved, but the other ones were not. And the most common haplogroups that showed up were U2E and also H, H1A and H2. If you look at where the most prevalent percentage of U2E and the H1s are, it is in between the Black and Caspian Seas, as in the Caucasus Mountains. And so that's very intriguing. What I can also share with you is what I believe was the migrational pattern, because these people, like some indigenous people of the Caspian area and Black Sea area, were and are dark red-haired and also very light skin and green eyes. And this seems to correspond as well with the elongated skulls.
Los Angeles, California, April 2017.
All right, Todd, you got the results?
Yeah, and they're very, very interesting.
Giorgio Tsoukalos is online with anthropologist Dr. Todd DeSautel to receive the results of a DNA test that was performed on an elongated skull.
They did get a good, clean DNA profile from the maternally inherited DNA. So this particular specimen is actually not found in the New World, not found amongst Native Americans, and it's typically found amongst Europeans and Middle Easterners. In fact, the 100% match was to a Scottish individual. This makes no sense whatsoever.
Really? In a South American skull? This is all very strange.
That could mean that people from Europe got to South America, 1,500 years earlier than we currently understand that.
Yes, but did they arrive in a spaceship?
When they did the DNA testing on the Pracket skulls, they realized that some of these people had come from Europe 1,500 years earlier than we thought. Did they just migrate here naturally? Or were they moved around by a spaceship?
There you have it. From the spirit's lips to our ears, to me, it seems like it was a total natural occurrence. This shape of the skulls has nothing to do with aliens. The DNA tests that these experts are doing seems to back that up. So, yeah, you got the evidence. You got these spirits answering us, telling us the same thing. So I don't think it has anything to do with aliens. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.